Okay, so in this question we were given a chart that showed the real GDP growth rate in terms of quarters from the years 1984 all the way up to 2013. And based on the data given in this chart, we had to assess the validity of the following statements. The first statement was that the lowest rate of growth was minus 2.5% in the first quarter of 1990. Well, we can see that if we look at the period 1990, that is the period the statement is saying in which growth was at its lowest point. But as we can see, there is another period in which one of the bars has actually extended beyond that point and therefore gone below minus 2.5%. Emphasising that actually the lowest rate of growth during this period was in the first quarter of 2009, because that was a period in which respectively the bar was lower than in the first quarter of 1990. So this chart contradicts the statement and therefore it is false. Next statement was the majority of the quarters measured exhibited positive economic growth. Well, we know that any bar representing a period that lies below 0.0% and therefore is in this red shaded region is a period which exhibited negative economic growth, and any bar that lied above 0.0% and therefore was a green bar and lies in the blue shaded region exhibited positive economic growth. Now you can just see by observing the data in this chart, there are far more bars that lie in the blue region than in the red region, backing up the statement that the majority of the quarters measured exhibited positive economic growth, meaning this statement was in fact true. The next statement is that there were 2 periods of 5 consecutive quarters exhibiting negative economic growth. Well, instantly when you observe this chart, there should be 2 periods that stand out for you because they are sustained periods of negative growth, and that is this period here around the 90s and this period here representing the financial crisis. In both these periods there are exactly 5 consecutive quarters of negative growth, backing up what is said in the statement, meaning that this statement that there were 2 periods of 5 consecutive quarters exhibiting negative economic growth is true. The next statement is that the highest rate of economic growth was 2.4% in the first quarter of 1987. Well, let's focus on the region that shows the bar for the first quarter of 1987. And we can see during that period, this bar was at 2.4%. And it is the highest rate of economic growth. It exceeds any other bar in any other region in positive terms. So therefore, this chart backs up the statement and therefore it's true. The next statement is that since the financial crisis in 2008, economic growth has not exceeded 1.5% in any quarter. Well, if we look at the period since 2008, we can see that if we draw a threshold in which there is 1.5%, which is what the question is contesting us on, there is not any period that has gone above a 1.5% economic growth level in any quarter, and therefore that seems to mean that the statement is correct, because the data in the chart backs up that no period, no quarter since the financial crisis in 2008 has seen an economic growth rate above 1.5%. And finally, prior to the financial crisis, quarterly economic growth rates exceeding 1% were actually quite common. So because the financial crisis started in 2008, we want to consider the entire period up to 2008, which is prior to the financial crisis. And if we actually draw a line in which there is a 1% economic growth rate, we can see that actually quite a lot of quarters there was a bar that actually went beyond the 1% threshold that we've drawn on there, emphasising that it was quite a common element in the UK economy to have real GDP quarterly growth exceeding 1% at that time, backing up the statement, and therefore this is true.